Hello. Can everybody hear me? Can you raise your hand if you can hear me? Okay. Excellent. Thank you. So we'll be starting at 8:30. Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Yasser, and I'll be presenting this session. I'm the head of learning support at the college. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Yeah? Okay, so tonight we are looking at UWE Bristol Harvard referencing. Okay, first of all, let me just confirm for you that this is a different style of referencing to the normal Harvard referencing, the basic Harvard referencing system, and also a Harvard Anglia, which you'll find in Microsoft Word or Office documents here. This is not that style. This is not the normal Harvard style. This is UWE Harvard, right? UWE Bristol Harvard referencing. Tonight I'll be showing you how to use the UWE Word plugin, which you can use to develop your reference list as you're doing your assignments. Okay, so just to repeat that, we are looking at UWE Bristol Harvard referencing rather than Harvard referencing or Anglia referencing. Okay, Harvard Anglia is not the style. UWE Bristol Harvard referencing. All right, so tonight we'll be looking through the reasons why we need to think about referencing. Also, we'll be looking at what plagiarism is and how to avoid plagiarism, how important it is to avoid plagiarism. And we'll be looking at the specific features of UWE Bristol Harvard referencing and how to do citations and then develop a reference list that fits with the citations that you do in your essay. Okay, and also, like I said, we'll be looking at the UWE Word plugin, how to install it, and then I'll show you how to use it as well. We will not be able to cover everything, but I'll make a good effort. We'll be doing a few quizzes, a couple of quizzes and I'll be asking you a few questions to make sure that everybody is in touch, right? It's also important to try and make notes. So I hope you are actually working on a laptop or a PC and that you have some notepad or something like that where you can take notes as we go along so that you can remember more of what we are talking about tonight. Okay, so let's start off, right? We'll be looking at referencing first of all. What is referencing and why reference at all? There are two aspects of referencing. Okay, uh, two aspects of referencing, and one is called citations or make doing citations. The other is actually building up your reference list. Right. So two different things, but they're related because citations are the basic information that you show in the body of your work, for example, in your essay or in the slides in a presentation or in the main part of a poster. And then that is linked to the reference list, which actually has all of the details about the citations. Okay. So every time that you use other people's ideas or words or images, they have to be acknowledged. In academic work, they have to be acknowledged. This is something that a lot of us are not really very much into right now because, for example, when we receive something in social media or see something interesting in social media, we immediately, a lot of us immediately share it without thinking about whether it is even exactly true or not, where the information came from, etc. But in academic work, when we do any sort of assessment or any sort of work for your studies, it's important to find out where a specific bit of information comes from, who wrote it or who developed that information, and where that information came from, and when it was developed. So, for example, one thing that your lecturers will be telling you is not to use very, very old references. And usually in many modules, the lecturers will tell you not to use material that is older than about 10 years old. Uh, but with some modules, for example, to do with let's say social media marketing or digital marketing, etc. A lot of the time, the lecturers may tell you not to use material that is more than 5 years old because a lot of the time knowledge is changing really, really fast, and especially to do with the internet or information technology or marketing, etc. Uh, the knowledge base is changing very, very rapidly. So one thing you have to be careful about is the age of the material that you're using. Also, it's important to refer to credible sources. So, for example, for most modules that you are on, using references to different websites or Facebook or Wikipedia will not be really acceptable to a lecturer because those sorts of sources or references are not very credible academically. Usually, you are expected to refer to material that is taken from journals and especially peer-reviewed journals, which are higher quality journals. Sometimes, depending on the module, you may be allowed or you may be even expected to refer to some particular websites, but that is very rare. Okay, so usually you have to be referring to articles and documents or books that are from a specific time period and also from credible sources. So every time that you use those sorts of material or any sort of material, you should give the right citation in the body of your work. Basically, a citation means the author's name and the year of publication. That's the basic citation. So 2 bits of information. So that is the acknowledgement. But if you're using a quotation, you have to use the page number as well. You have to give the page number. Okay. So doing this very diligently is part of academic honesty. Okay. Academic honesty, so basically it means doing the right thing in your academic work. If you don't do this, it is an aspect of plagiarism or an assessment offense, both at UWE and at VC. Okay, it's not only about it's not only about UWE, it is also about VC, Villa College. So you have to make sure that the citations you give are correct. And also, if you look at this slide, if you use material from a particular source or different authors, even unintentionally without acknowledging that, that is also considered an assessment offense. So every time that you use information that you have got from your lecturer or from your reading, you have to acknowledge it. If it is from your lecturer, some of the time the lecturer may not give the source. But if the lecturer is using the right sort of material, they should ideally be giving the source of their material, or you should ask and find out where that information came from. Now, one important thing here is that whenever you're doing an assignment or any sort of work for your modules, um, it is important to look at the reading lists that you have been given, whether in your module handbook or in the topic slides, for example. Because when you do any assessment or assignment, it's very important to start from that material, the material that has been selected for you as being very important. Okay, so that's the start point. And then work from that in order to develop your research for an assignment, for example. Okay, I've got a question here. Yeah, this is the same as the afternoon session. I actually sent an email to everybody. I signed up for this session. FHS students, nursing students or health related students who were in the afternoon session do not need to be here. I added everybody from FHS to both sessions because they may be in different duties at hospitals and so on. Okay, so if you were in the afternoon session, you can leave. That will be okay. All right, it will be the same content. Okay, so then thinking about assessment offenses. Assessment offenses are very serious. Okay, so this is from a university's academic honesty policy. This is similar to any academic offenses policy in any university or college. So here, the definition of plagiarism that is given by Baruch University is presenting another person's ideas, research, or writing as your own. So this includes, and it is not limited to, copying another person's actual words without the use of quotation marks and footnotes or references, presenting another person's ideas or theories in your own words without acknowledging them, using information that's not considered common knowledge without acknowledging the source. So, for example, if you're using very common knowledge, like let's say the sun rises in the east, that is very common knowledge, or the sky is usually blue, common knowledge. You don't need to give citations for that. But if you're using or if you're giving information, knowledge about your field, about your topic, that is very specific, then you need to find the right kind of source or reference, which you can use as a citation. Okay. Even failing to acknowledge collaborators on homework or laboratory assignments or group work is an assessment offense, right? Purchasing and submission of papers from paper mills, internet vendor sites, and other sources is also plagiarism or an assessment offense. And this actually includes the use of AI. We have developed a guideline for using AI at Villa College. Okay. For UWE students, you have to refer specifically to UWE guidelines as well, in addition to Villa College guidelines. But basically, using AI is something we encourage within the guidelines. Okay. And we'll be rolling this out for the May semester. So basically, using AI for developing your own ideas or developing brainstorming sessions is fine, but not using AI to write your work or to develop your assignment or to develop your reference list and so on. Okay, the specific guidelines will be brought out later, but the thing you have to be aware of is that you should not use AI to show material as your own work, right? Um, but we'll have the guidelines rolled out, and you'll be familiarized with the AI guidelines very soon. Okay. Then, based on the information that I've just given, okay, based on the information I've given, let's do a little quiz. Okay. So the quiz is here. That the link is here. If you want to do it on your phone, you can just scan the QR code over here. Okay. So this will take about 4 minutes, I think, for most students. So let's try this out. Uh, so let's do this quick quiz within about 4 minutes. If you want to do this on your phone, you can just scan the QR code. Okay. And if you're on a computer or a laptop, just click through the link over here in the chat box. Okay, it will take you to the page. It's about 8 questions. All right, it's about 8 questions, and it's a self-marking quiz, so you'll get the answers once you submit your options here. Okay. Okay. So I have about 4 minutes for this. Let's start this. Some of you are already submitting the answers. It's good. About a minute left. About half of you have answered, I think. Very good. Okay, half a minute left. Okay, so I think about three-quarters of those in the session have finished. Those of you who haven't finished yet can still continue to answer or finish it later. We'll move on a little bit. Yes? Okay, so I think a lot of you may have had a problem with the last question here, which is it plagiarism if you take text from another source, but change one or two words and provide a citation? Basically, if you take text from another source, what that means is it's a quotation. And if it is a quotation, you can't change bits and pieces within the quotation, right? So a quotation is something that you are showing the lecturer, showing the reader, because it's very, very essential information. And also two other reasons, which is to show that you have found this really important bit of information, maybe that you cannot change into your own words because it is so well expressed. And also it could be because you want to show the lecturer that you actually read that particular reference. Okay. One thing to say about quotations is that the more quotations you use, the less valuable your own words are, or the less you'll be able to use your own words, because your word count will be decreasing the more quotations you use. And also, if you use quotations, it's very important that you make use of the quotation by referring to it and explaining why that quotation is so useful to the argument you're making in your assessment, in your assignment. Otherwise, there's no use in just giving a quotation just for the sake of it, right? You have to make use of the quotation. And also, but still, you have to try and reduce the number of quotations you use or the length of the quotations you use, because the more you use it, the less you will be able to explain your own point of view. This is called the writer's voice. And you should try and make sure that you use the least amount of quotations possible. Okay. Okay. So moving on a little bit. Um, Referencing generally. Okay. Looking at referencing generally, it enables you to make sure that you collect the right bits of information so that um, you can show the lecturer that you have done the right kind of reading, starting from the reading lists that you have been given in the module handbook and in the topic list, for example, or in the topic PowerPoints, to show the lecturer you've done the right sort of reading, and also to show that you've done more reading than the bare minimum. Yeah. Uh, okay, Zuleha, I'm sorry about that. Um, um, You might be using maybe an extra space at the end of the email or something like that. You can email it@villacollege.edu.mb to make sure of that. Okay. Okay. So coming back to the referencing, um, also referencing properly means that you'll be able to identify all the right material that you need to reference. Now, in referencing for UV referencing, it's very important that you have the right balance, okay, in a way. So for example, if you have citations to 10 different reference materials in the body of your work, then you should have all those 10 references in your reference list. No more than those 10, no less than those 10. Only the references that you have actually used in your assignment or in your writing should be in the reference list. Okay, so it should be the same, exactly the same references, no more, no less. Okay. Also, um, when using the references, you need to make sure that um, you use the information properly. And the best way to use the information that you have got from the reading that you do is to summarize the information you have understood, that you have got, or uh, even better than that, to actually express what you have learned in your own words as far as possible. Now, there'll be some words that you can't change. Okay, there'll be some words you can't really change because they will be keywords for that particular topic area. But you should try not to repeat phrases. Okay, in expressing your knowledge in your own words. But summarizing or using your own words is the best way to use the reference in that you have done. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. The second way in which you can use the information that you have gathered is to paraphrase. But with paraphrasing, what often happens is that students often sort of um, change the information that they see in a PDF almost word for word. And that is running the risk of being flagged for plagiarism with Turnitin or by Turnitin. Okay, so you should try not to paraphrase very closely if you do paraphrase. Also, paraphrasing using different tools, I would not really recommend it, because then you are not actually developing your own knowledge. Okay, by doing proper paraphrasing or doing proper summarizing and expressing in your own words, what you will be doing is actually developing your writing skills and your expressive skills, which will actually make you a better student, and also it will enable you to develop your knowledge of that topic area much better. And then the third type of using material that you have read is to use quotations, as I've said before, but use it as little as possible. Okay. Then one other thing here is, when you use these two types of referring to materials and doing citations, uh, you have to use two bits of information for your citation. As I mentioned earlier, for these two types of using the reference material you have gathered, you have to use the author's name and the year of publication, only two bits of information. But for quotations, you have to use three bits of information. Can anybody tell me in the chat box what other bit of information you have to use if you're using a quotation? Every time you use a quotation. What other bit of information should you use? Yes, good. The page number. Every time you use a quotation, you have to give the page number. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, right? So basically, when you give a quotation, you have to enable not the volume. You have to enable the lecturer or the reader to be able to find where in the reference that you are citing, you're giving a citation to, where can they find that quotation, which page. So the page number has to be given. Okay. With the other two types, you just give only the author's name and the year of publication. Okay. So there are many styles of referencing. What we are doing is UWE Bristol Harvard referencing at Villa College, except for students who are at the Faculty of Educational Studies and those who are at the Faculty of Sharia and Law. One thing that you have to be careful about is that when you give the reference list, you have to make sure that it's in alphabetical order. Now, there are different ways of managing your references for a particular assignment, but the best way I would recommend is using the UWE Word plugin, which you'll be looking at very, very soon. But even with that, or whether you're doing it manually or using a reference manager like Zotero or Mendeley and so on, you have to make sure that it's all in alphabetical order. And also, actually, the point of doing this particular workshop is for you to really know for yourself what the referencing system, the UWE Bristol Harvard reference system looks like, because some of the referencing tools like Mendeley and Zotero and so on, they don't actually give the exact right version of this references system. So a lot of the time, students who develop or who use those referencing systems actually give a reference list that is flawed, that is not correct in some of the details. And in doing referencing, you have to be very, very careful with the punctuations and commas and everything. So you need to know what the referencing system is very, very carefully in order to be able to use it properly. That's why this session is particularly useful. Okay. Now, how it looks like, what this referencing system looks like is um, there are two basic kinds of citations. Okay, the first type is where you give an information, sorry, an author prominent citation. An author prominent citation is one where the author's name or names come within the sentence. Okay, so here we have one author, therefore the verb that you use to describe what they said should be in the singular. And in English, for whatever reason, if you use the present tense, you have to use an S to indicate that you are talking about one person, right? Pike investigates. But if it was Pike and Harrison, then you have to say Pike and Harrison investigate the experiences of further education, for example. Okay, so um, this is a little bit of an maybe anomaly, but you have to be a little bit careful about that. And generally, when you refer to different references, you can use either the present tense or the past tense. The present tense can be used because in English, when you refer to literature or movies and that sort of material, you can use the present tense because it's seen as something that exists, right? So you can use either the present tense or the past tense, like here. The other thing is, so this is an author prominent citation where the author's name comes within the sentence. But you may sometimes have a reference which you are not particularly very happy about, maybe, or that is not mentioned in the reading list. In that case, you can put that the author's name into the bracket, and usually that will come after the information that you have shared in, and then you give it within the brackets. Here, the sentence doesn't require that doesn't depend very much on the grammar, whether it's one author or two authors, and so on. But one important thing to remember is that when you use the full stop will come after the end of the bracket. One other thing is that with brackets in English, we don't do this. Okay, you don't have spaces within the bracket and before or after the text like that. Okay, so it should be sort of tight, right? The bracket should be fairly tight to the text. Okay, no spaces within the brackets. Okay, so this is an author prominent citation and this is an information prominent citation. So two different kinds. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm going to ask you a few questions based on what I'm talking about. Okay, and then you can give answers in the chat box. Let's see. Let's move on a little bit. Okay, so like I said earlier, quotation should be used as few times as possible, and the length of the quotation should be as short as possible as well. But when you do use quotations, I recommend that you use double quotation marks like this, right? Rather than a single quotation mark like this. Okay, so use double quotation marks. And also, when you give a quotation, sometimes depending on the program or the computer you're using, sometimes they'll give a straight quotation mark like this, a very plain quotation mark like this, whereas some other programs or some versions of the program on different computers will give a slightly artistic quotation mark, right? So you have to, one thing, this is just for artistic reasons, but to make your writing more as presentable as possible. If you like to use straight quotation marks, use straight quotation marks throughout. Uh, if you like these enhanced versions, use the enhanced versions throughout. Okay, so this depends a bit on the program and the computer you're using. Just keep an eye on that. Okay. Another thing is a lot of the time, some students actually start off a quotation. Okay. They start off a quotation, but very often they don't finish the quotation with a quotation mark. So it's like an open quotation, and that is a little bit sloppy, right? So you have to be a little bit careful and make sure that if you are giving a quotation, you should have an open quotation mark and also a closed quotation mark. Okay. And like I said earlier, you have to have 3 bits of information if you're using a quotation, which means you have to give the page number. And with this type of referencing, you have to give the page number with a simple P dot and no space before the page number. Okay, no space before the page number. You have to give 3 bits of information. So, for example, here it's an information prominent quotation. So the author's names, the year of publication, the page number, all come into the bracket. But with an author prominent citation like this, you can, you would normally put the year of publication and the page number at the end of the sentence, but before the end of the sentence. So bracket closed and then full stop. Okay. Any questions from anybody? Okay. One other thing before we move on from here, okay, and this is something that happens with a lot of students, so I'm just mentioning it here. If you if you're giving reference or citations to a few different authors within the same paragraph, it's very important to make sure that you clarify for the reader when you start using information from a different source, from a different reference. So, for example, here in this particular extract, we are talking about something that Pike and Harrison said. So we have given a quotation, we've given the page number, etc. So if you start talking about somebody else's material, then it's important to clarify that. So, and then when you start using that other material, it could be because it will be because it belongs in the same paragraph, so it's on the same topic, right? It's on the same topic, but it could be material that is similar to what you have already said, or it could be material that is different or contrasting to what you have said. So in order to show that, it's important to use a linking word or expression. Okay. So this here, what you can do is if the material is similar, you could say something like similarly, right? Similarly, let's say white, 2024 declares, for example, okay, declares that, and then you give some detail. So here you are indicating that you're using a different source now, different reference, and you're also indicating that what White said is similar or adds on to what Pike and Harrison said, right? Or you could say additionally, again, you're still saying it's a similar kind of material. Um, or you could say furthermore, moreover, etc. Right? So those sorts of linking words and expressions help you to link up the ideas you're writing now to what you already said in that paragraph. Right? On the other hand, okay, if the material that you are referencing now is different from what Pike and Harrison said, you should use something like however, right? Or you could use on the other hand, okay, or you could say in contrast and so on. So these different linking words and expressions, and these can be researched a little bit if you Google academic linking words and expressions. Okay, academic linking words and expressions. You get lists of good linking words and expressions that you can use within paragraphs or at the beginnings of paragraphs to link your ideas up to what you already said. and make it more clear for the reader, for the lecturer, what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, or what sort of information you are presenting now. Yeah. So use linking words and expressions and then also make sure that when you start referring to another author or another reference, that you show clearly that you are now talking about something else or some other reference. Okay. And in order to show how that relates to what you said before, you should use the right sort of linking word or expression. One other thing is with linking words expressions, you usually have to have a comma after it. Like if you use however, on the other hand, additionally, etc. All of those things require a comma afterwards. Okay. All right. So what are these called? Can anybody remember and write out in the chat box what these are called? What are these called? Okay. Linking words generally could include very sort of neutral linking words and expressions. Ideally, you should search for academic linking words. Okay, academic linking words and expressions. If you search that, you'll get very good material. Okay, the spelling was wrong here. Okay, so moving on a little bit. Here also, okay. If you are using a quotation, for example, the 3 bits of information are there. Depending on the way you present that material, you may need a comma. Okay, so be careful about using commas. The other thing is, usually in English, you normally have the full stop inside and the close quotations outside. If if this part, the year of publication, page number, go right after the author's name within the sentence like that. Okay, so then you would have the full stop and then the closed quotation marks. That is the more natural way to present it rather than this version. Okay, so one other thing here is academic reporting verbs. So one thing I've talked about is linking words. So again, with linking words, you should search for academic linking words. Another thing is academic reporting verbs. When you talk about different references, it very often students tend to use Pike and Harrison stated, right? Pike and Harrison stated, or according to Pike and Harrison. And if you keep repeating that, it becomes a bit monotonous and a little bit boring. So a way to avoid that is to use academic reporting verbs. In the examples I've used here, you may have noticed that I've used some words sort of highlighted this way. These are called academic reporting verbs that help you to make your writing a little bit more flavored or a little bit more colorful. Okay, so as emphasized by Pike and Harrison. So here you are sort of loading on to what you have said before in the writing. And you're saying that Pike and Harrison really emphasized a particular idea. Yeah. Earlier, I used reported. Again, this is an academic reporting verb, and that indicates this particular word indicates that you're saying Pike and Harrison actually made up a report. Here, I've used declares. That is also a strong word that indicates that White 2024 wrote about this particular idea that you're expressing in a very strong way or emphasized it very strongly. Earlier, I used investigates, so that would indicate that this particular reference is about an investigation, but this particular reference is about a documentation, right? So different academic reporting verbs also can be researched a little bit, Google it a little bit, and then try to incorporate those into your writing as well to make your writing a little bit more interesting. Okay. Now, one other thing, a couple of other things. Earlier, I used a two author reference, right? A two author citation. Up to three authors, right? Up to three authors. All of the authors have to be mentioned every time in this sort of referencing. Okay. You have to mention all the authors every time, up to three authors, whether it's within quotation, within the bracket, outside the bracket, etc., the same thing. But if you have a reference where you have four or more authors, okay, four or more authors, then you have to use this particular way of citing. You give the uh yeah, that works, Ikram. Review can also be used. That is a reporting verb, so that can also be used depending on the reference you are actually giving a citation to. Okay. Now, if we turn back to this, if you use a citation where you have four or more authors, you have to give et al. Okay, and et al. Will follow the first author that is mentioned in that article or in that document or report. Okay, the first author's name is given, and that is it. Okay, and then you have to say et al. Et al. In Latin means and others. Okay, and this is a shortened, abbreviated version. Therefore, you have to have a full stop. And to indicate that it is Latin, in UWE Bristol Harvard referencing, you have to italicize it as well. Okay, two words in italics followed by a full stop for four authors or more. Now, this is useful because, and it is sort of required, because some articles and some reports and so on may have many, many different authors. For instance, recently, the Chinese brought out a new AI, right? A DeepSeek. And when they brought out DeepSeek, they actually documented it along with an article, and the article had, I think, 30 authors. Okay, so if you are going to write an article referring to that article, excuse me, you would have to have 30 authors' names every time you refer to it. And that wouldn't be very, very feasible, right? That wouldn't make a lot of sense. Therefore, every time you use four or more authors, you use et al., italics, two words, full stop. Okay. And then in your reference list, you have to give all of the names. Okay. And we'll see that in a second. Okay. So, when should you use et al? How many authors or more? Can you indicate in the chat box very, very quickly? How many authors or more for an et al. Citation? Four or more. Yes. It has to be four or more. Okay. And then the reference list should have all of the authors' names. We'll see that very, very soon. Okay. So if you look at a reference list, okay, we look at the reference list, it would look something like this. Let me just maximize. Okay. So first, let me ask you, how many, okay, this doesn't look so good. Okay. How many of these references is a book? How many of these refer to a book? Can you tell me? So there are three different reference items. How many of these refer to a book rather than an article? Okay, very good. Yeah, it is one. Yep, good. It's only the last one that refers to a book. That is a reference to a book. Okay. And how do you know that it is a book? This tells you, right? This is the place of publication and the publisher's name, right? So that indicates that this is a book. With a journal article or, yeah, place of publication, very often it is a fairly famous place like New York or London or Melbourne or something like that. So a book is indicated by the place of publication and the publisher's name. Yeah. Usually, we will almost always be using articles, and these are two articles. So let's have a look at some of the details, right? Okay. So when you give the author's name, okay, when you give the author's name, it's important to note that you only use the last name, and then you use the initials, right? The initials. So very often, even in the Maldives now, many people have three names or sometimes four names. So only the last name should be used, and then the other names should be given. The other names should be given as initials. And after each initial, you have to have a full stop. Otherwise, that is a mistake. So, for example, a lot of the time, many Maldivians are a little careless, I guess, and we don't use a full stop after the last initial, right? If it was somebody with three names, three initials, you should have three full stops, right? It should be like that. Okay, so every time you give an author's name, you have to make sure that you give the last name and a comma, and then each of the initials followed by a full stop. And then you don't have you don't have any comma or anything after the author's names, okay, except when you give a list of names, okay. So if, for example, if um, let's say if this was an article with two names, then you would have the two names, but no comma after the first name, no comma before the end, right? No comma before the end, like here also. And then there's no comma after the last name also. And then you have the year of publication within round brackets, so the normal brackets, and then a space. Again, no comma there. Okay, then the interesting thing for article titles, okay? The interesting thing for article titles is that in UWE Bristol Harvard referencing, they are the title of an article is considered to be a sentence, okay? This is okay. So here also, the title of the article is considered a sentence. So a sentence means how many capital letters should be there in a sentence? Normally, it should be one, right? Right at the beginning. Yeah. So only the beginning of the article title should be capitalized unless there's a proper noun like English or a place name um, that is within that sentence, right? So in case there is a proper noun like this, English, or the place of the name of a place, etc., then that would be capitalized. But other than that, all of the journal article title should be in sentence case, which means only the first letter is capitalized. Okay. And it's the same thing here as well. Only the first letter is capitalized. The other thing is, very often journal articles tend to have a main title and a subtitle. Okay. And the main title and the subtitle are separated by this punctuation. What is this punctuation called? Anybody? What's this punctuation called? Yeah, good. It's called a colon, right? It's called a colon. So two dots. Now, after the colon, you have what is basically a subtitle. And the subtitle is also considered to be part of that main title, the journal article title. Okay, therefore, there's no capital here. But if you look at the book title, you see that after the main title, when you come to the subtitle, the first letter of the subtitle is also considered like the beginning of a sentence, and that should be capitalized. So the name of a book or the name of a journal, the name for a report, etc., the name right? The name of the main document. Uh, in that sort of situation, you have to consider the second part, the subtitle of that main item, right? That should be considered a sentence as well. But also, you notice here that there are capitals, initial caps for all words except for words that are 3 letters or shorter. Apart from this, here this is considered the beginning of uh, a sentence, right? Also, if you have the or in or anything like this, anything like that at the beginning of the title of a book or a report or a document or a website, that should also be in italics and capitalized. Okay, but within the title of a book or a document or report, that will not be capitalized. That, like here, for is not capitalized. Okay. Um, Also, similarly, here we have the name of the journal. Same thing, right? Italics, initial caps, except for the short words. Okay. Here also, initial caps, except for the short words, and in italics. All right. And then you have to have this. What are these sorts of brackets called? This sort of bracket. What are these called? Anybody? So we had round brackets here at the top. Those are round brackets. These are called square brackets, and you can see them on your keyboard if you're using a computer or laptop, right above the enter key, right? So those square brackets have to be used. And you see here, when you give this online indication, that follows immediately after the title of the journal or after the title of the book, right? And the online indication within square brackets is followed by a full stop. Okay, so the online indication within square brackets is followed by a full stop. Online should be given not in capitalized form, and also it should not be italicized. So it should be in straight letters. And then uh, for a journal, which is what we normally do, we have this. Okay, so what is this part? Can anybody tell me? The 5 and the 2 here, the 30 and the 4 here. What are these? Okay, volume number and yeah. So 5 here is the volume number, 38 here is the volume number. What is in the brackets here? No, not the page number. It's the issue number. Okay, issue number. Okay, so after the name of the journal and the online indication, which is usually what you have to do, you have the volume number and then the issue number. Now, volume number usually refers to the number of years that that particular journal has been published, okay, or the particular series of publications of that journal. So the volume number generally indicates the year, the number of years the journal has been published, and the issue number indicates the number of times within a particular year, right? For example, in 2006, then the issue number indicates how many times in 2006 that journal has come out. Okay, so that is important information, because if you're looking it up in a library database or at a library, that this piece of information helps you to find which issue of a journal or which volume of a journal you need to look for. Okay, so volume number, volume number followed by issue number goes into the brackets, and then a comma, and then the page numbers. Okay, you have to give the page range, and to indicate the page range, you have to use simple double P dot space. Okay, simple double P dot and then space, and then the beginning of the article dash, and then the end of the article, okay, after the end of the reference list, and then a full stop. Okay, lots of particular full stops here. So, for example, there's a full stop after the journal article title, and after the online indication, there's a full stop. After the PP, you have an full stop, and also after you give the page range, you have to give a full stop. And usually, right at the end of any entry, you have a full stop. Okay, so volume number, issue number, page range with a PP dot space, the numbers here, full stop, and then again a square bracket for accessed date. Okay, access date is also very important. Now, why do you need to give an access date? Because you said it's online, and in UV referencing, UV Bristol Harvard referencing, online means uh, online has to be used for any information, any document or PowerPoint, etc., that you're giving a reference to that you saw in electronic format. Okay. So, for example, if you downloaded references from Moodle or from a library database, or you got it from the lecturer on Viber or WhatsApp, or from a classmate on in some sort of program, if you saw it online or on screen, then you have to say online. Okay. And when you say online, you have to give the access date. And normally the access date will have to be a date that is very close to, but a little bit before the date on which you are going to submit your assignment. So, for example, right now, this would probably make a lot of sense because it's if you're going to submit this, it'll be some research or some document that you got very recently, maybe within February, maybe within January if you started researching earlier, or if you downloaded it earlier. Also, this would probably have to be somewhere within the last 10 years, right? So 2016 perhaps, right? Then the accessed, when you say accessed, you have to give it in capital letters. Online is in simple letters, accessed with an initial cap. And then the date has to be given in 2 digits. Okay, always 0102 up to 09, and then 10, 11, everything within with 2 digits. And the month should be given in full letters, okay, in the full form, not just Feb, but February, not DEC, but December. And the access date, as I said before, will be just a couple of weeks or maybe 3 weeks or so before the submission date, because normally most of us tend to start researching fairly late, fairly close to the submission date. Okay, so let me ask a few questions, right? When do you have to use et al? This is a repeat, but when do you have to use et al in a citation? Okay, good. When you have 4 or more authors, good. And then, for example, let's say you have used Christie et al. In your essay. So that means 4 or more authors. That has to be followed by the reference, right? So here we have 4 authors, and you have to give all 4 authors' names properly. Now, if you give a list of authors, then you have to make sure that you give the last name, comma, initial, followed by full stop. And then after the last initial, you have to give a comma to separate that author from the next author, right? So then you have Pakiti, A, M, again, 2 initials, 2 full stops, comma, and so on. Before the and, there's no comma, right? Before the and, there's no comma. But the previous authors would have a comma after their initials. Okay. Then what else is there? Right. When you give the name of the journal, you always have to make sure that it's in italics. The name of a book, the name of a journal, the name of a website, the name of a report, anything that is the main source should be in italics, initial caps. Okay, just to remember that. Okay, so when you're actually formatting your reference list, you can give it as references or reference list, etc. But when you actually format your reference list itself, uh, whether by using the paragraphing, um, giving a space before the paragraph, giving a space after the paragraph, that feature in Microsoft Word, or by giving a paragraph, a separate out the reference items, because otherwise it looks very untidy and difficult to read. So if you had your reference list like this, you can imagine how much of a headache whoever is reading it would have, right? So give a space between each two items, and then it will look a lot neater, and you'll probably make life a lot easier for your lecturer. Okay, so let's see. We have right now we have covered what plagiarism is. We have looked at why we need to reference. We have looked at the specific parts of what you need to gather for your reference list. Okay, we have looked at what the reference list looks like, and therefore we'll soon be looking at a little bit of a quiz so that you can check your understanding. Mm, One other thing that I like to cover is mm, no, okay. I don't have it to hand right now. If you join some of my academic writing classes, I'll also go on a little bit about how to structure your research so that you can really gather information and present information in a more structured way. But that is beyond references, so we'll skip that for now. Okay. Let's do the referencing quiz. Okay. So here I have the QR code which you can scan with your phone, or I'll share the URL here. Just click that. And this is a little bit more elaborate than the previous one. You have to read a little bit more carefully. The answers will be given. Okay, the answers are given. So it's a self-marking quiz. Okay. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the UWE Bristol UWE plugin for Word. Okay, so just click there or use the QR code and do the referencing quiz. Okay. For this, let's take about 10 minutes. It'll take a little bit of time. Okay, about 10 minutes. Let's time it. I'll okay, let's make it 9 minutes. 10 minutes seems a bit long. 9 minutes. There are about 11 questions. Okay. And for questions 5, 7, and 11, you need to note down the answers that you want to give. Okay. And you can check the answers for those questions at the end of the quiz. Okay. All the other answers um, will be marked by Google. Okay. For these three questions, you have to note down the answers. Okay. Okay, about 4.5 minutes left. Okay, one of you has finished. Good. Good. A few more of you have finished. About 3 minutes left. Okay, good. About 1.5 minutes left. You can't submit it. Is it to do with the last question? Some students seem to have problems with the last question. But this one, you don't have to give any answer. But if you do have to give an answer, we can just give a number or something. Okay? It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be done. You might not have completed one of the questions. Most of the questions are required to be answered. Just check on that, please. Okay, almost half of you have answered. Seconds left. Okay. Um, okay. Some of you are still probably completing it. Um, don't close that screen, please, or that tab. You can continue to answer even slightly after this session, but I'd like to go on to some other material, okay? Because we have very little time left. Okay, one other thing I would like to cover right now is the YouTube videos that will help you to install and use the UWE Word plugin. Okay. So for example, what I'm talking about is uh, if you go to references in Microsoft Word, if you have installed the UWE Word plugin properly, then you will have this right at the bottom of the style list in the references tab. Okay. And to get this, what you can do is search through YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and search for VC Learning Support, okay, anytime that you want to, search for VC Learning Support on YouTube. Okay, and then you get uh, this. Okay, and here there are a few different videos that I have shared, but the very important ones for you right now, I think, are how to install the UWE Word plugin, okay, and also how to use the UWE Word plugin. Now, how to install the UWE Word plugin is a step-by-step video on how to exactly find the UWE Word plugin, and you can get the UWE Word plugin here, okay, in the description for this video, how to install the UWE Word plugin, a UWE Bristol Harvard plugin. You see this link, which leads to one of my Dropbox folders. And in the Dropbox folder, you find two files. This file you could just open in a tab, right? Open in a tab like this. What is important here is this line, okay? This line of code. If you copy that line, okay? If you copy that line, which is found in this Dropbox link that you find here, okay, how to install the UWE Word plugin. So this link leads to the Dropbox folder, and you can open this in a tab. And then what you need to do is download this, okay? Download this. You don't need to have signed up in Dropbox or anything. You can just download, okay? And you get into your it in your Dropbox folder. And then what you need to do is copy this line, okay? So there's a very brief version of using the UWE plugin or installing it. Okay, you can go to a new file explorer dialog box. Go to this tab. Okay, so basically you are going into the Microsoft bibliography and style folder, and you see I have already copied here the Harvard UWE plugin, which I put in this box, right? So you download this, and then you can copy it into the style box from the downloads folder. You can just drop it in, okay? Because it's already installed. Uh, you'll be asked whether you want to reinstall it or and so on if you have already got it. But otherwise, you just drop it in, and then if you have Word open, you should close it down and then open it up again, and then you'll see in the references list, references tab, in the style box, you'll see UWE Harvard. Okay, so once you've got it installed, sorry. Once you've got it installed, where are we? Okay. Once you've got it installed, you can check out the how to use the UWE plugin video as well. Okay. Again, this is a step-by-step guide to how to use the UWE plugin. So I have made this video so that you can use it step by step. Okay. But if you have any problems with installing or using it, please do get in touch with me so that I can give you a step-by-step guide on how to install, how to use it, and so on. Okay. Now, if you look at the chat box Before the session started, I have shared with you a few different links. Okay. One is the VC Etudes community on Viber link. Okay. How many of you are in the Viber community right now? Can you raise your hands if you're already in this Viber community? A few of you, quite a few of you. Okay, I'd like everybody to use it, please. So if you click that link there, you'll be taken here. And now, if you want, you can scan this, or you can go there later on. Okay. So that Viber community is useful because I get to reach out to you and help you throughout your studies. With different aspects of academic writing, with grammar, with some inspirational material, with some funny memes, hopefully funny memes, and so on. Okay, so VC Etudes community link is there. The Etudes appointment, these are useful for you if you want to clarify anything with regard to your studies in terms of using grammar, using language, how to develop essays, how to develop PowerPoints, how to present PowerPoints even. I'll try and help you. And right now, these are slotted for weekdays between 11 to 12. Okay. Um, I think right now a lot of the slots have been taken by one student who has clicked a lot of the appointment links. I'll clear that tonight. Um, so if those times are not particularly useful for you, if it is not suitable for you, you can get in touch with me on my Viber through my phone number or through the email that I'll be sharing with you very, very shortly. Okay. And also, if you want a face-to-face etude, you can let me know, and I'll arrange a timing for you that is suitable for you. Okay. Then I hope many of you are using these academic writing workshops on Thursdays. You can click these links directly. Or if you want Saturday sessions, you can click these links. These will be most Saturday nights. And during Ramadan, I find it very difficult to engage with students because everybody is really busy and the classes are on a compressed schedule and everything. But if you want Saturdays, if you can only come on Saturdays, please link that. Click there and register so I can get back to you with the links for particular Saturday night sessions. Also, the learning support videos on YouTube, that link is there, VC Learning Support. Also, there are walk-in sessions on Google that you can click this and just get in. Okay. These will be on Sunday mornings. Okay. Between 10 and 11. So a few different options for you in terms of learning support. Now, in terms of this session, okay, I want to give you a little bit of work, and this will take a little bit of time. So I have made a little exercise that I would like to share with you so that you can do this and email me and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I've just shared in the chat box a little exercise which you can do in your own time and get back to me. Hopefully within a couple of days, and then I'll get back to you within a couple of days with the correct format. So based on all of this information that I've shared, you can do this and email me at this address. I've just used the customized email address so that I can filter all of the emails from this session or the references sessions. Okay, so in addition to that, this is a link to the materials that I am using today, and also some quick reference guide and so on that you can download and use later on as well. Okay, so this Dropbox link gives the link to the materials that I have used today, and also a quick reference guide which looks like this, focusing on journals, books, websites, which are usually the ones that students use. One other website that I would refer you to is the UWE um, reference, not the reference, UWE referencing, UWE Bristol Harvard referencing, this particular link. Okay. This is the main web page for UWE Bristol referencing, and it gives you all of the information that you would need to do the referencing properly. And this is the key page that you should refer to when you do your referencing. Okay. So I'll just share that directly as well. Okay. Okay. So I hope this session has been useful, and I would be really grateful if you would give me a bit of feedback on the session using this link, the feedback link. Okay. And if you found this session to be useful, I would, you could just give a thumbs up, and that will be really great. Yeah. If you found this useful. Also, please do keep in touch. If you need any help, VC learning support is free. Make sure that you use the facilities that you are getting. Okay. You have paid for this, so in effect it's not free, but basically it is available to you anytime that you want the information. Okay. So information on referencing, information on developing your essays, PowerPoints, etc., etc. All right. So I hope this session has been very useful for you. Please do give me feedback. Okay. So that I can develop the sessions further based on the feedback I get. All right. So Ramla Mubarak to everybody, and I hope your time at Villa College is going well, and I hope to be able to help you in the future. Yeah. Thank you for joining the session. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Okay. Very good. Many of you have done the UV referencing quiz as well. I hope that was also a bit of a learning experience. Uh, I'll just leave this on screen for a bit. Okay. And thank you for joining the session. See you soon.